Hi, everyone, and welcome to Gladverse TV, the show where the silver lining is always our North Star. My name is Laura Borland, and I'm so pleased today to have a discussion with someone who I admire greatly to discuss bouncing back from financial setbacks. So I want to introduce you to Damian Birkel. So Damian is the founder and executive director of Professionals in Transition Support Group, Inc., one of the oldest nonprofit organizations in America dedicated exclusively to helping the unemployed and underemployed find work online and in person. And better yet, he's a co-collaborator on my book, Gladversity, available on Amazon. We can learn more about Damian and his work at jobsearching.org. Damian, welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. How are you, Laura?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. You know, I have just having been through situations like early in my life in terms of losing everything and having to start over, I know how perplexing it can be. I also know how you can almost move into a state of inertia, just being fearful as to what your next move is. So within your nonprofit, what have you seen in terms of, has there been an uptick in the number of people who are experiencing financial difficulties and reaching out to your organization for support during these times?
Yes. The breadth in terms of those reaching out to the organization has increased. And this is truly a very challenging time. And I think the most challenging call that I've received of late is a young lady who called from way away from where we do in-person services. And I was visiting my daughter. So I was in Tennessee and she was in Raleigh. It was Thanksgiving weekend. And she told me that, things had gotten really tough and that she had to go back to work. And that first she had lost her grandmother from COVID and was reeling from that. And then she lost her brother from COVID.
Wow.
But had gotten to the point where her long-term disability had run out and that she had to re-enter the workforce at once, for lack of a better term. And we were able to work a short-term plan to help her. But what really struck me is how COVID has changed and continues to change the work landscape as we know it. And if you have not been impacted by COVID in one form, shape, or another, you probably will be. And the need for sensitivity as people continue to grieve while they earn their living is critical, because I can remember when my mom died. I mean, the work deadlines only increase, people's patience decreases because you're not at your best. In a situation like this that this young lady faced, they were tremendous odds, but by looking at the situation for what it is and then making the decision to break it down into small and manageable chunks of things that can be done, made climbing Mount Everest not easy by any means.
Right.
At least doable, looking at it from the base of the mountain up.
That is so powerful what you said. And I can completely relate. I lost my dad in October. And it was a moment of pause. And I definitely recognize that I had to do some introspection to kind of go, okay, today I don't have it. I just don't have the energy. I'm not doing my best. and to be patient with myself and to be kind with myself, to understand that it's part of the process. And
Yes.
as you mentioned about Mount Everest, just really understanding that it is incremental. And I share this with you because in the height of the last recession, in 2008, 2009, I lost my home. I lost my job. I lost my livelihood. And I had to move back in with my parents. And, it is, I'm here as testimony that you will persevere. The mere fact that you're standing today tells me that you will be okay. If you're listening to this and watching us right now, you are one step closer to climbing out and clawing your way out of whatever dire financial situation you are in. But during those moments, I learned a lot about myself in terms of resilience, and that I was never too big for any job. So I did temp assignments. I did 2-day temp assignments. I worked with a friend who had a landscaping company. I learned how to do things I didn't know I could stretch myself to do. And I learned so much about what matters, the things that matter. So family, important. Friends, you kind of know by attrition who are the people who value you. And then you also recognize that somehow you make the dollars stretch. Whatever finite amount, you find a way to not go hungry, or you find a way to, push through or sleep on someone's couch, or to find some way to claw your way out of that. And the biggest factor, I think, is just taking one step at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. And guess what? In 3-4 weeks, you'd be surprised how much progress you've made, and you're still standing. A year later, you'd be amazed at the progress you've made. And Damian, I wanted to find out from you in this new normal, because we're never going back to the way how we used to work, for sure. But have you found with your organization that it can be a little simpler to get back into the work mode, mainly because I think there's so many gigs out there, the gig apps that are out there where you can start earning relatively quickly. Have you found that to be true?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Okay.
for lack of a better term. It depends on a number of things. First, it depends on whether you have a computer, and many people don't, a good internet connection, and many people don't, and also the baseline knowledge that you need to even jump in to the gig economy. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible, because it's not, and I am a graduate of the try it until you learn it school of success.
Right.
I have failed more than I have succeeded. And the only person who's going to teach it to you really is yourself. There are people that will help you learn, but the responsibility rests from within. So
True.
For those who do have access, then yes, there is opportunity that can be found. However, again, it depends on what your talents are. And this is not to discourage anybody, because it's not. There are positions that are out there that are available. When it comes to full-time positions, there's this phenomena going on that's called the Great Resignation. And the Great Resignation is caused by 4 different factors.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm going to forget one, but the first one is retirement. People just get to a point in their career where they say, I am done. I do not want to expose myself or my family to COVID, so I'm finished.
Okay.
Then you have the people that basically say enough is enough. Take this job and shove it. And they do. They resign without anything in place. And by the way, that's not something that I recommend. I recommend people lump themselves into the third category, which is where they conduct an under the radar job search. And that's where they get everything right first, get their resume right, get their LinkedIn profile correct and robust, and really focus in on the top 25 companies that they are targeting before they send out resume number one. Because if you don't have a target to shoot for, then the whole job searching process is going to feel very random.
True.
And to this day, if anything, the number is higher, but a number that's held pretty stable for the past 30 years is that 80% of all jobs never hit the internet. And I can hear people going, what? Exactly. But let me define that for you. In the research that I did, the actual number is closer to 7%. And let me define that 7% for you. I'm not saying that you don't see lots of jobs out on the internet, because you do. I'm actually talking about the number of people who see the job online, apply for the job online, interview, negotiate, and get the job. 7%. And so you're saying, okay, yeah, but still you have to apply for jobs online. Well, yeah, you do. But by the time that most jobs are online, they've already been available to others within the company or within the company's company, meaning, friends, relatives, or what have you, for usually 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks. Now, it varies from company to company, but when I worked for Sara Lee, there would be people that would be told, hey, this position is going to come up in 2 weeks, be ready to apply. And corporate policy used to be that it was 2 weeks in the division that you were in, 4 weeks in the overall group, 8 weeks within the corporation, and only after 8 weeks would it ever get posted on the outside. Now, the time frame is probably much shorter these days. But my point is that networking, that ability to make connections one person at a time, and with COVID, more so on LinkedIn than in person, that's the way that jobs find you, because it's your reputation that goes before you. It's the things that you've done in the past. It's the people that you have worked with. All of these things work in your favor long before a job ever hits the internet. And if you think about it from a human resources position, who would you rather hire? Someone you know, or someone that you know who knows somebody, or a complete stranger?
True.
Would you rather have 5 candidates to interview or 205 resumes to go through to find 5 candidates to interview for?
Right.
And that's why it's so important to know the companies that you want to work for, and know the type of position that you want to work your way into, because there are all sorts of things that you can do to reduce the amount of information that your inbox is bombarded with by excluding things like on Indeed.com.
Hmm.
There is an advanced portion of the site where you go in and you can create a profile, and then you can create job alerts for every position that you're looking for. But even more importantly, it's called Boolean, where you can actually go in and say, I only want positions from the following companies with the following titles. And I don't want education, educational ads, and the various other things that you don't want. And to give you an idea, I was working with a candidate. Kathy she was in information technology. She was getting 1,500 job openings a week.
Oh my God.
And we got that down to 15.
Wow.
And all 15 of them were exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so my point is if you go to the internet blindly and look for positions, then there's almost too much opportunity.
I'm with you on that. I was struck by what you said about this, almost like this great resignation. In recent months, I've realized that, well, COVID has caused us, especially during the lockdown period, to do a lot of introspection, to realize what it is that we want in this life and what we're not prepared to put up with. And I've been noticing just an upward trend in terms of people going out of their way to pursue the things that they are passionate about. So they've been working, they've been doing the tread work, right? They've been doing the tasks. They know what they're doing in their jobs, but there is a deep dissatisfaction with the dissonance between their with what they believe their true calling is and what they're being asked to do. So have you found that in recent times, people are looking for a completely different industry as they're going through their job searches with you?
Absolutely. And if their life has been touched by COVID, the likelihood of them going through the process, the discernment process, is far greater because their entire life has changed right before their eyes. And so all of a sudden, the things that are important that they thought were important no longer are important. And so they're asking the hard questions. And as a result of asking the hard questions, sometimes they're coming up with answers that they had never planned or anticipated. And as a result of that, there have been, and will continue to be, in my opinion, some radical career shifts where a person begins to do what they feel is right, where they go with their natural, where their natural talents are, as opposed to being a round peg in a square hole, for lack of a better term.
Of course, of course. You know, I could speak to you for hours. I think what your organization, what you're doing is really impactful and meaningful work. I know how, a lot of people are just feeling displaced, just really not feeling, not feeling flat-footed is a term I like to use, just very unsure. It's a tenuous time. And, and really just looking at how the work landscape has changed, the relationships that we're used to having in terms of having in-person communications, in terms of meeting with people, being able to have that work family and having it now move into a virtual disconnected type of environment. And so I can imagine how in a situation where someone might have lost their job due to restructuring of a company, that the lack of intimacy then adds to the angst. So I'm very mindful of that. I just want to end with just one last thing. I like to, within the show, I like to do what's known as moments of Gladversity, where people, we get some kind of takeaway, something, that shows us that there is gladness in the face of all of this. And something that we can do today, something that's very practical, very actionable, that we can do starting today, to just make it a better tomorrow. Do you have any such suggestions?
I do, but this might surprise you. It's not job related.
Perfect.
And I was talking about this the other day. When you lose your job, your world ends as you know it. Your family is there. Your rice bowl has been emptied. When you lose someone that you love through COVID, it's the very same thing. 95%, at least in my experience, of those who have gone through professionals in transition emerge when they graduate and talk about how their faith was strengthened as a result. And I will tell you that there would be no professionals in transition if I hadn't gone to church on my knees after my face being rubbed in the red clay of Carolina for 4 months, 500 resumes, 50 responses, 5 interviews, no jobs. And I basically said, look, Lord, I'm tired of doing this by myself. You got my attention. If you'll only help me through this, I'll never forget what it was like to be unemployed. And professionals in transition is that promise kept. And so from a Gladversity standpoint, to thrive in adversity and move it to Gladversity, for me, the common factor is prayer and faith. And for those that are out there, at least from where I stand, being able to believe in a higher power, whatever that means for you, and being able to channel the goodness that comes as a result of that will change you. And you may not always get the answers that you're seeking, but you will get answers that in the long term are the best for you now, and more importantly for you in the future.
Oh, so profound and so right. My Gladversity takeaway is very similar to prayer. There is a moment where I believe very strongly, and I do this every day, but I really take 10 minutes in just complete silence to just be still, to quiet my mind, to ensure that I'm breathing in the way that I should. Because when you're stressed, you don't breathe well. You sometimes forget to breathe. And so it's important to bring the serotonin levels down, to bring down the tension that all of that's there, right? When you're in a state of stress, you're in panic mode. And so you're just, trying to find out exactly what it is that you need to do next in order to fix the situation right away. But taking the moment of pause to really just go, okay, you know what? What is the message that I need to know right now? What is my next step? And sit in silence and contemplate. And 9 times out of 10, it works very similarly with prayer, is that the answers will come. Some answer will come, and you're not quite sure. Sometimes you're confused as to the direction you're supposed to be going. But I do believe that with prayer, with faith, with the stillness of the mind, with calling, just bringing that energy back into yourself, that answers come. And that calm allows you to make more informed decisions as opposed to panicked decisions.
Mhm.
But I absolutely love this, Damian. Thank you so, so much. This was
You're
a
welcome.
fantastic experiment. And also, happy anniversary. His 45th anniversary as well. So enjoy your vacation. And thank you so much for joining us from your vacation as well.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Bye. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.